What's up, dudes? Chooch back with another one. Today we're going to be looking at an in-depth review of the Kingsong S20, talking about 5 reasons why you should buy this thing, and pretty much the top 5 reasons why I really enjoy it and why it's different than any other wheel out there. And now I've gotten my time to really test this thing, guys. I got one over here behind me thanks to EUCO. Link below, guys. Takes you straight to EUCO. If you can use that link to buy through EUCO, it helps me at no cost to you. Greatly appreciated. Anyways, let's get into this thing, guys, and talk about some of the riding characteristics of it. I know a lot of people are excited about this wheel. There's only 18 of them in the world right now, and I mean, just having one to ride around and demo and fool with before these things get launched is awesome. Because I mean, I don't think I could have waited, dude. I literally do not think I could have waited for one of these to come out. The dynamics of this wheel are extremely different than any other electric unicycle out there, guys. As soon as you get on this thing, you feel like you can just do way more. And I mean, by do way more, I mean you can be aggressive with jumps on this thing. You can literally ride this S20 straight out the back of a pickup truck. Like, literally, I know this isn't something that's a good explanation for the usefulness of it, but I'm just saying it makes you feel like you are, I mean, like a cyborg. I mean, it feels like you can ride over anything on this, and it feels like the machine's not going to get damaged doing it. So with the hard, solid axle electric unicycles, guys, the biggest problem with those is I mean, it's a solid axle. You're literally, every jump, every rock you hit, everything you do on that wheel you're gonna feel it in your knees. You're gonna feel it in every bone in your body. But with this, guys, it is a beefy suspension setup, and it actually works. So the S18 S18 and the V11 were great introductions to suspension on electric unicycle. And I think that really gave us a good flavor of what to expect in the future, and I think it got a lot of people really excited about that suspension actually worked. I mean, that really showed me on the S18 and the V11 that suspension was a beneficial thing for a lot of different types of riding out there, especially for people that are riding where the roads are unmaintained, people that are riding dirt roads, and then predominantly off-road. I mean, the S18 is just, the only thing that lacked was the power on it. Seriously, it was a fun wheel, and the suspension did its job. And any other wheel without that suspension, once you got used to it, if you wanted to ride trails, you wanted to ride your commute that had potholes on it, everything like that, the wheel, I mean, a non-suspension wheel was just, it was hell. I mean, literally trying to ride that thing would just beat your knees up. It was awful. So the only reason I strayed away from the S18 and the V11 was just because I wanted more power. I literally just wanted more power there. So that's why I went for wheels like the RS, for example. I mean, that's just a powerhouse of a wheel, and everybody loves it for that. Yeah, it's not the longest range, but it's just powerful for stopping, for acceleration, all that type of stuff. But it just doesn't have the suspension on it, guys. So you really, the only way you can have a lot of fun with the RS hitting jumps is if you're really good at hitting jumps and you don't mess up ever. So if you hit dirt jumps and you can land your transition perfectly, and you can always land on the downhill side every single time, you never need suspension. And if that's like what you're going to be doing, then yeah, like the RS is great because you get all that torque going up. You can really memorize how the wheel is going to behave because suspension is not even a factor on it. Suspension can change up a lot of different stuff, especially if you keep messing with your settings on your suspension. It does change a lot about the wheel and the characteristics of the ride, guys. Like with a solid axle wheel, you get used to the behavior of it, and it never changes at all. It doesn't matter if you dampen it, you soften it, you know, it never changes. I mean, just that simple. So that's one thing you got to consider about this, guys. With this wheel right here, I noticed I didn't know what my settings were on the S20 that I demoed at the track. And then I got on this one and I was like, dude, I don't memorize what my settings were, and it feels just completely different. And I have no idea what settings I would do to get it back to the way I had it at the track. So when you get this wheel, guys, you're gonna have to really play around with the softness, the hardness, and the rebound on it. So how fast this thing's gonna be rebounding, and the rebound is really hard to get dialed in for me on everything. Even back whenever I race dirt bikes, the rebound is just hard to dial in for a lower weight rider. Like, this thing was made, you can tell it was made for like a 250 pound person. Like, seriously, this thing is, I mean, I wouldn't say it's overbuilt at all. I say it's well built, and I think it should be that way. So like, even like a smaller rider like me can treat this thing like a legit dirt bike. I mean, putting every bit of stress on it, jumping it over the biggest obstacles, and that suspension on there is gonna hold up, guys. I mean, it's impressive. It feels like I'm riding a miniature bulldozer compared to other wheels, and like what I could ride over, and the stairs I could ride down, and just the off-road terrain. Like, for instance, we came up on this whole section of like ice. It's not in this video right here, but a whole section of just gnarly ice. With any other wheel, I wouldn't go blasting into just ice with like footsteps in it where it's all jagged and what.
That thing up on the Switzerland trail?
Dude, I've taken it pretty much on every trail around Colorado, dude.
Yeah, how was it?
I love it, dude. I've been taking this specific one on Switzerland. I took one with no suspension on it. It did pretty good, so I can only imagine, dude. This will probably
It looks sick.
Yeah,
How fast does it go?
This one will go about 43. Yeah. I just got it, dude.
I don't know about that one.
It's fun, bro. It's like, once you get the hang of it, it feels like it's like the most natural way of getting around.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the... What are they called?
Check out, it's called electric unicycle. That's just the name of it.
Electric.
It sucks they got that shit in the name, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, I'll see you around, man.
Not, because it can, once you get into that ice, it can just, it's like ruts, like on a dirt bike track. It'll just kind of veer you off in whatever direction it wants to push you. But with this wheel and the knobby tire that's on it and the suspension it has, it literally, you can go into ruts, rocks, roots, anything like that, and the suspension will help this wheel track and make its own line, as opposed to wheels with no suspension where they just are kind of forced into whatever track already exists. So basically, the suspension wheel just lets you just full send into sketchy situations that this non-suspension wheel would never allow you to, whether it be mud, sand, rocks, ice, snow, uneven roadways, potholes, everything like that. Like, you can literally send it on the S20 into whatever situation it may be, and any other wheel you would just be, I mean, it just simply couldn't handle it. I mean, you would go into it and you'd immediately lose control because that thing would do whatever it wanted to. But this thing is awesome, man. Like, just the fact that, like, it behaves like you're, it literally behaves like you have the back rear suspension on the front wheel of a mountain bike riding it around. And obviously, you know, looking at this, you'd say that, but once you actually get on the thing and you feel what it feels like to have just full mountain bike suspension like this on a powerhouse of a wheel, and this wheel is a lot heavier than the S18, guys, so it just feels more robust and more substantial in itself to go over stuff, and just in a device of itself. The S18, guys, just I don't know, it almost was too small of a wheel. Like, everybody was complaining about how big the S20 looks and feels and everything like that, but I think it's honestly perfect. And one thing that I liked more about the S20 as opposed to any other wheel, especially on the track, like for racing, was the whole kind of the whole dynamic the Sherman gives me. With the Sherman, it's really stable at high speeds, guys. So like if you're cruising around and you gotta be in like LA traffic, for example, I would literally only want a large wheel like the Sherman or like the Monster Pro or something like that, that has, once you're going and once you're tracking down the road, having a larger wheel like 20 inches plus, 20 to 24 inches, it helps a lot, because this, like the same effect they did in the science class, man, where the guy spins the wheel and he puts it on the rope and holds it there and you try to torsion it. A wheel, 22-inch wheel spinning at 50 miles an hour like that, man, it will stay straight up. Like, it takes a lot to really put that thing off kilter and to go down. So you're getting a full gyro effect from these larger 20-inch plus wheels, and especially one like this that can just stay connected to the roadway at all times. So you're getting the effect of having an insane amount of inertia keeping you upright. Also, the suspension's forcing the wheel down, keeping it from skipping, from hitting any anomalies in the road. And that's one thing that will happen, that will even throw the best riders down. You're just cruising down the road. And one thing that happens to me a lot is I'll power up. I'll go into a lean, and like if my body is facing this way, if like I'm doing like a carve in the street, I'll go into a lean to accelerate and hit like a little bump in the road. And all it takes is that little bump. You've done it. You know exactly what I'm talking about if you ride. You hit that little bump and it skips that tire sideways a little bit. And just because that inertia effect of that wheel spinning so fast, usually it's just a little hiccup, spin. And to somebody looking on the sidewalk, they'd be like, dude, he about busted his ass on that unicycle. But to you, you're like, okay, this happens all the time on my non-suspension wheel. I get like a little hiccup boost right there. I don't really know how to explain it, man. You kind of like take off, hit a little bump, and the wheel steps sideways and goes up, skip, and then you keep going. The whole thing with the suspension wheel, it never breaks traction. And it's gnarly because you've got 126 volts behind you and you never break traction, ever. And so it, like, I tried that on the racetrack there and was able to get the whole feel of it and understand why the suspension helped on the racetrack. And now I'm able to ride it on the roadways and see how the suspension helps just in everyday riding, even for commuting in the city. And I mean, of course, there's faster wheels with more range out there, but there's nothing this fun. I mean, seriously, like with the stuff you can ride over, ride down. I mean, you can just nonchalant just ride down the gnarliest flight of stairs ever, and people will be looking around just like, what did he just do? Did he just ride that thing down? I mean, it's like nothing. It's seriously, once you do it like a few times, you can ride this thing down like an escalator. You seriously could ride it down like the steepest escalator at the airport, just chilling. I mean, this thing is incredible the way it handles. It's awesome. It's simply awesome. And the one thing I don't like on the side now of the S20 after having it for a few days is the power pads. I'm literally going to take those off today on the next ride. I'm going to put on I'm going to try all of them. I'm going to try out the Psy pads, the Clark pads, and then the Kai pads, and the Grizzly pads. So I'm going to take the other ones off and then try the aftermarket pads on there, because the only thing is I don't like is these. Check these out. So these are the spacers you have to put behind the stock pads, and these kind of like reinforce it, but I'd rather do away with these completely. I mean, I don't have a problem with using them, but if you put on like Grizzly pads or something, you don't even have to have these spacers behind the pads. I think the Kingsong S20 is phenomenal. The wheel and the few days I've rode it so far has blown my mind. I thought it was going to be an incredible wheel for off-road riding, for trailing, everything like that, but it's great for just even city commuting. I got a friend in town right now. We've been riding around pretty much every day, just kind of in urban settings, not really riding too much on trails. It's been snowy and icy. Had a record low here the other day, and so everything's iced up. It's thawing out a little bit now, and I'm going to be able to get this thing on the trails. But for your typical urban commuting, just getting around, you can have a ton of fun compared to any other wheel. And it's fast. It looks good. The quality is there. I mean, everything you've seen, like you see on my wheel right here where the front bumper's taped up, this is a demo wheel, guys. This thing has been in the hands of people that literally are told to go out and ride it hard, see what's up with it, and report back to you what's wrong with it. And out of everyone so far that's reviewed this thing, the one common thing I've seen that people get mad about is they say the front bumper gets damaged. And it's like, no shit. That's why it's called a bumper. So the front bumper on the unicycle is like this plastic piece, and it is completely lower quality than the entire rest of the unicycle. So like literally the whole rest of the thing is like military grade, nice quality. Everything on it is literally higher quality than the front bumper. And the front bumper feels like it is like part of a Nerf gun. It literally does not even feel like it's the same plastic from the same manufacturer. It doesn't even feel like it's from the same machine. The whole front bumper, it literally is like, it is what it is. It's like a low cost piece that can be snapped off, broken, and replaced upon you damaging it. So it's not going to be something that costs, you know, $100 to replace the thing. It's just going to be, I'm not sure yet on the price of it, but they shouldn't be charging over 30 to 40 bucks for that front bumper. I mean, straight up. And I think anybody that does damage it, dude, just get creative and fix it and make it into something else. Like, seriously. I mean, that's the only thing on the whole wheel that's low quality is the front bumper. And everything else is fine. And then if you really want to go into it and say, hey, this isn't the quality I expected of this wheel, the only other thing I'd say is the power pads on the side, guys. Those just, I really wish, like I've said in other videos, I wish they were in like a metal track system instead of having an adhesive to the side. But those are the only things, guys. Other than that, the wheel is phenomenal. The actual build of the wheel, the suspension, the power, the range, the batteries, the display system, everything on it that we wanted in this wheel is perfect. It's just the few little things on it that were kind of like treats, kind of like Easter eggs with this wheel. And I think there's just two of them that aren't dialed in perfectly yet. And it's the front bumper and then the side pads on this thing, the traditional side pads. But a lot of people aren't even going to run the traditional side pads. And then people like me are going to make their own front bumper for it that's even better than the crappy one they send you. So that's pretty much it, dudes. But the overall performance, ride quality, it's all there. And I definitely think, like, I asked my buddy, I was like, dude, how much do you think, like, to your door, how much do you think one of these would cost? And he's like, like, to your door after shipping everything, like, after him riding it around, because he rode the Kingsong 16S, and then I gave him my M Super V3S after that, and he said he'd probably pay about $5,000 for that wheel, like, to your door, taxes said and done, shipped to your door. He'd think about $5,000, and he's not too into the electric unicycles. He kind of rides whenever I come out here, just to give you a reference of, you know, the knowledge base of unicycles. And I mean, I would say, knowing what I know, I would spend straight up $4,000. I would spend, like, knowing what I know, if I got a production model brand new in the box that had never been rode by anybody, never been demoed, I would straight up feel comfortable spending $4,000 of my own money on it, like, straight up, to get this wheel. And I wouldn't feel like I was robbed. I'd feel like I got what I paid for and completely satisfied with it. And it's going to only be, like, supposedly it's going to be $3,200, guys. So, like, literally, this isn't much more money than, like, the RS, other wheels like that. And you're getting a lot, man. Like, this is way different than any other unicycle ever made. And it just, the components on it, I mean, you're literally getting a full mechanism, suspension mechanism, metal exoskeleton, metal pedals on this thing, as opposed to just like a plastic shell. Like, straight up, it's awesome. I love this wheel. But anyways, it's been Chooch. If y'all enjoyed the video, throw it a thumbs up, and I will see you dudes in the next one.